Welcome to the NNBN podcast, talking with businesses, charities and organisations across Northamptonshire.
Sponsored by Poppy Design Studio. Find us at poppydesignstudio.com.
So in these series of podcast interviews, I'm delighted to be joined by the chair of the board of Wilson Browne Solicitors, and I've got Kevin Rogers with me. Kevin, welcome today.
Morning, Simon. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely no problem at all. Really looking forward to spending some time with you to talk to you about what's going on, not only around Northamptonshire, but also around Wilson Browne Solicitors. But let's give everyone an introduction to yourself, first of all, because you've been a solicitor for 23 years, I think, that you qualified, but you're also chair of Wilson Browne Solicitors. So you're not just an average individual doing average things, are you?
I think my wife would disagree. I'm pretty average. But no, from my own point of view, I've been a security guard, a milkman, a barman. I've worked in carpet shops. Law firm wise, I've worked in firms in Manchester, London. I moved to Northamptonshire in 2003, and it's my adopted home now.
Fantastic. So you moved here a couple of years before me, and I say it's my adopted home as well. So, and you've come down from the north, haven't you?
Yeah, I came up to here from London, but originally I was from Leeds, but I've lived in Ireland, Warrington, Manchester, London, and actually now Northamptonshire is the place I've lived the longest. So where am I from? I don't know. Where's home? It's Northamptonshire.
Yeah, brilliant. I mean, I'm from the south and I've moved into Northamptonshire, but I absolutely love it here. And I think it's a fantastic place to be, which is why, some of the stuff that we put on in the area, we're really passionate about what's going on is it's just a tremendous place to be. And I think, we have a very exciting future in a certain way because of our location. And I think it's just a case of keep pushing that message out there that Northamptonshire is a place to be. But let's talk a little bit about Wilson Browne Solicitors, because you're quite a prominent business in the area across the East Midlands and probably a little bit further afield that maybe we don't necessarily know about. But do you want to talk to us a little bit about the team and Wilson Browne Solicitors?
Sure, thank you. I'll try not to be boring because, when people use lawyers, there's a certain stigma attached historically. Lawyers are boring, aren't they? Well, no, not really. They're all just people. What we try to do is to let our people be who they are, which is individuals. And we've been trying to do that on and off for almost 200 years now. It's a Northamptonshire-born firm. We have a presence in Leicester. We've got 6 offices altogether, 5 in Northamptonshire, 1 in Leicester, about 170 staff at the moment. And we do everything except crime for people and their businesses, essentially. So, if you want to buy a business, buy a house, we've got specialist teams. And the firm I joined in 2003 would have admitted to being a collection of high street practices. So we had lawyers that would do more than 1 or 2 or 3 things in each different office. And over the time I've been here, my partners and I, we've recognised the need to not just grow, but also to specialise. So that has led to us having some real, some of the teams are almost unrecognisable to the firm I joined, and some are still doing that excellent service, which is the bedrock of what we're built on over all those years. So we've still got the local links very much, but also with specialist lawyers in place now.
Well, brilliant. And we've got a series of interviews coming up after this interview, actually, in the next couple of weeks with some of the team members. So we'll be talking about conveyancing, we'll be talking about divorce, unfortunately, but obviously it's a service that you do help with, and a little bit to do with family law as well, which looking forward to speaking to various members of the team about sort of family law matters as well on the podcast. But with Wilson Browne, I mean, obviously we see the brand quite a lot around the area in the community. You're very community focused as a business, aren't you?
Yeah, and I think, to be honest, that's the fluffy answer is that's who we are, but of course every firm would say that. It's a decision made because of who we are, but also by choice. When we talk about that firm I joined, we thought, well, what do we want to be? What does that business do? What does it look like? What activity doesn't surprise you if a business that is community-based is doing? Well, you can't just say you're community-based, you've got to be involved. And then it's finding the people in the business who have that interest in the, whether it's the local netball team or whether it's the the 5K series, or whether it's the local football team or a charity event or whatever. And we've allowed people to do that. The staff get volunteer days, for example. We've got paid volunteer days, so they'll forever be going and doing up a nursery school, or picking up weeds, or repainting something, or down at the donkey sanctuary, or all of these things, which they really enjoy. And actually, it's not the reason you do it, but there is a cynical win there for the business. If you're doing stuff that makes your staff happier than, Bill and Ted down the road, then your staff are likely to stay and be more engaged and just be happier. There's this massive thing about what's your cause, what's your why, being kind, and it really works. It's hard to measure the individual return on investment, but when you stop looking inwardly and start looking outward, you're living and breathing that cause that you would otherwise just have as a strapline on the door in your reception. I think that's really, really important. So, yeah, we can't do everything. We can't support everything. We also don't want to be at absolutely everything, because that's suffocating. But where our staff have a passion for it, if we can support it, we will.
Fantastic. And I know the charity quiz night coming up at the Raj in Kettering, which with the Northamptonshire Health Charity, that there'll be a team from Wilson Browne Solicitors there, I think, on the evening, because I'm hosting the evening, so looking forward to that. But obviously we do see the brand around, and we also see it around the business community as well, because you're very focused within the business community. You've been the past president of the Northamptonshire Chamber of Commerce. Your headline sponsors, I think, for the awards this year. You are with NNBN this year as well, with the event sponsorship. So I think it's just brilliant what you're doing to be around the business side as well. And of course, last year we had the event with the Business Minister, which we were really grateful for you to be involved with that as well. So it obviously means a lot to Wilson Browne Solicitors.
I think when you stop and think about lawyers, you think about the billable hour. Now, however your lawyer charges, like any business, they've got to charge. But if we can make a bit of space on an individual basis for people to get involved in these things, then actually we provide a better service. Being the firm that supports partners like NNBN with these, and that was an incredible event that you had last year with Kevin Hollinrake, and being there, I always say, if you're not in the room, you can't be in the conversation, and it's really, really true. I meet on a fairly frequent basis members of government, or I meet MPs, or I meet councillors, and that's just not, although you might not believe it, it's not just for a cheeky selfie for LinkedIn. That's to be able to have that conduit, to have that conversation, and to feed back the engagement from, we've got probably 6,000 clients at any one time. The Chamber will represent a third of everybody that's in business in Northamptonshire. We have had more and more engagement with Milton Keynes Chamber, Bedfordshire Chamber, with NNBN. Collectively, genuinely, it's stronger together. All these organisations, they're neither private sector nor public, they sit in between, and they don't compete, they collaborate. And if we can align with that and use our platforms, well, firstly, it's more interesting doing legal updates every 3 minutes that no one really wants to read unless they need that particular thing. But also, it gets you more engaged. And my dad had a market stall. He had a fleet of vans in Ireland, and I grew up on those. And he wouldn't sell. He would put people together. He would share information. And, weirdly, that's where we are now. I'm not claiming that that's just Kevin's idea or my idea for Wilson Browne, but it's one that aligns with all the partners. Who can I put you in touch with? What do you need? Our strapline is all the help you need for a reason. What do you need? Who can I put you in touch with? Because if you're going to buy a house, you won't be surprised when you pay the price that you agreed and you get the keys at the end of it. What's the journey? What's the service? What's the delivery? Going back to what's your cause? What's your why? Who can you put me in touch with? And stop looking at the transaction and look at the journey, because this is still, even with Leicester, it's the same as Northamptonshire. We still have that blessing of a village community. There's still people that know people that know people. I've worked in 2 cities before, and it is different. And long may what we have continue as we grow and as we shout. Don't let this county be something that people drive past. This is the place. We are right in the middle. We're an hour from everything, and in the county, you're half an hour from everywhere. So it all feeds through. We don't want to get too big, but we do want to maintain that sort of strength of focus and feeling and be involved in stuff. And the awards, We've got the Business Exhibition coming up next week from the Chamber. There's always something silly going on there from our point of view. We've got Manor sponsoring this year. Fantastic local business, local UK company employer, but representing an international brand right here in Northamptonshire. Why did they pick it? Clearly because we're awesome, but also because of the geography. What a great thing for the area. I think it all ties in. I could go on about it for ages, this county. I really love it.
Brilliant, and that comes across with some of the stuff that I've seen since I've got to meet you over the years, and that includes things like being around careers days and enterprise advisors, because you're engaged with the future generations as well, aren't you? Through some of the work you do in the schools.
It's really important. I have only just stepped down as a SEMLEP enterprise advisor just last month. And I've done it since 2014, since it set out. I'm not walking away from it because the school I was attached to, I'm now chair of their trustees. So I'm devoting my time to the business and skills agenda in that sense. And the thing that turned me onto it was, I talk in old money, year 1, year 5. But if you think about that age 11 to 15, 16, those 5 core secondary school years, if you like, in most people's terminology. If you have just one interaction in 4 of those 5 years, so that's not even 1 a year, which is just frankly rubbish. We can do better than that. But if you have less than 1 interaction a year, so 4 out of those 5 years, you have an interaction with someone from business. That can be a talk in a classroom. It can be an assembly. It doesn't have to be, everyone thinks, work experience. No, just an interaction. When you are 18, that student is like 86% less likely to not be in education, employment, or training. So,
interesting statistic.
Why can't we beat that? That's 4 out of 5 years. Why can't it be 4 a year? And it takes an hour. I would do a careers talk to a year group, and it takes an hour, maybe it takes half an hour to get there and back. And I can do that same talk every year because the year group changes. So there's no real preparation time. So, guys listening, your local school would benefit from that sort of low level investment massively. Be consistent with it. It's your one thing a year. If 5 people do it, that's a whole school taken care of. It's not hard to make a massive difference. So that agenda is really, really important.
Brilliant. And we were talking with the SEMLEP Careers Hub last week, actually, about being able to push that more, about Give an Hour is sort of the drive that they've got to try and get more business engagement into the schools, so you can spend more time with young students, our future generations as well. And it is important, which is why we're willing to share that message and try and encourage businesses to go in and employers as well to go in as well, to actually speak with the future generations. And we work closely with the college as well, a Bedford College Group, and exactly the same there as well, trying to help connect up businesses to help to shape future curriculum as well, because it is important. It's important for all our futures, because when you and I have retired, then we're going to need the younger generations to still keep these motions going. And touching on that, you are chairing the skills board, aren't you, for the local skills improvement plan?
Yes, that's right. It's mandated by the government that each region, ours ties in with the SEMLEP region, so Beds, Milton Keynes, Northampton, has to have a plan to improve skills. So the assumption, this is just me talking, but the assumption I think was we need to check with local businesses to see that local educators are providing the courses that are needed for future. Now, brilliant. No one's going to argue with that. That's a good thing to check. We probably thought, or the government probably thought, that we would be finding all these wonderful high-tech courses that didn't exist. And that, for me, that's a prejudice against the excellent local education institutions that we have. the study was talking to the colleges and FE providers, but it applies equally, from my point of view, to secondary schools as it does to university. And of course, they know what they're doing. Of course, they're at the cutting edge of courses. They know that they need to be creating the courses for jobs that don't exist yet. The very top thing right across the country, which surprised me certainly, was that what we don't have, lesson number one, is an awareness of local businesses about what courses exist now and how to go and find out about them. And, it's that business of 10 to 30 people. They're the ones that need that information the most, because if you're setting up on your own and you think, oh, I could do with an apprentice or I could do with someone to go on a course, you're already energized to go and get that. And if you don't need them, then you don't need them. But if you're in that middle ground where you could benefit from them, but you're probably too busy to go and find them, where do you look? All of the colleges will say, go on our website. But how do I know which college? How do I know which course? How do I know what's out there? Where's the central point? Where is the signposting centrally from the Institute of Directors, from the Federation of Small Businesses, from the Chamber of Commerce, from the networking groups? It doesn't exist. So this is just a Kevin thing. My point is, can't we at least tick that box? Can't we get the business organisations, the business minister, the education minister, can't we have a joined up thought process where there is a central point that makes it easy, so that when correspondence is going out from government or from the networking groups, they can say, oh, and by the way, did you know, if you think you could benefit from training, there's funding, there's courses, there's apprenticeships, there's whatever. Click here, answer a few questions, tell us what you need, and we'll make it easy for you. That doesn't exist, and it shouldn't be beyond the wit of woman or man to put that together. And yet you have commercial competing objectives. You have departments in government, and I voted all colours, so this isn't a political statement. You have departments in government that don't talk to each other about it. You have networking groups that have their own agenda, that say, yes, I completely agree, this should be a bipartisan thing. We should all get together. We'd be ideal to be at the middle of it. And I bang my head on the table, because that's why it doesn't happen. And then you have colleges and FE institutions go, yes, that's great. We all do work together. Well, where's your combined brochure or combined website? Because you are still in charge of your own commercial budget. So real world difficulties get in the way of this, but there must be a way to fix it. There must be a way to get people together. I happen to be meeting the education minister this week, Robert Halfon, and I'll be raising that with him. Something I feel very passionate about, and we have to feed that back through. And even if we can make it work a bit, if we can make a couple of colleges work together, and we can make a couple of networking organisations work together, it will help. But people in business need it to be easy. This rhetoric from governments of all colours over the years that business, you've got to play your part. They are playing their part. We've got to put it on a plate for them to make the take up higher. And we've got, they're too busy, and that they're not actually there to understand the education system or the political system. Let's help them. Let's help the students. Let's help the learners. Let's help the workers improve. And then everything rises, and everyone makes more money. So this isn't a socialist pitch; it's a capitalist pitch. Everybody will win, whatever colour they vote and whatever camp they have. And we need someone to bang heads together, and I'm going to keep asking for that.
So great to hear what you just said there, and certainly there's further conversations that can happen from that, I'm sure, without a doubt, because you and I have spoken about this previously and said that we were going to look to bring people together to actually engage in this, and this will happen. I'm 100% sure we are going to make this happen, because if we can make it happen here and locally, there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to take this nationally to the ministers that we are talking to, who we talked to last year as well, with when Kevin Hollinrake did come to Kettering last year. Yep. So I think it can be done. I think we've just got to do what we can do to make sure that it's done together and collectively. And, my full backing is behind this, with whatever we can do to help support this. And, I certainly think, why shouldn't we look to try and, solve this challenge that's out there? It's a big one, as you say. But, if we can start to do something, then I think that's better than nothing at the end of the day. So
100%.
Let's touch on the Minister event last year, because obviously we did have Kevin Hollinrake come to Kettering last year. Fabulous day for me to be able to host that event and to have organised the event. How was it for you? Because when I spoke to Kevin Hollinrake about it a couple of weeks ago, he said he absolutely loved it. It was an absolutely brilliant event. He walked into a room and he never knows what he was going into, whether it was a room of 5 or 6 people or a room of 100. And he said, for you guys, he said, we had 100 in a room. And he said, it was tremendous, was his words. So how was it for you?
My biggest memory really is a smile on your face, because it was great.
Really?
It was absolutely great. From a business point of view, what terrific engagement. And I think a big part of that was actually him. He just answered questions. He wasn't full of sound bites, wasn't full of deflections, wasn't blaming the previous minister or the previous government or the, he was straightforward. And I think what was really useful was hearing that message that we give out as advisors, professional advisors to business, of not every business is going to make it. Great. Northamptonshire has got one of the highest startup rates in the country. Brilliant stat. Come on, let's go, entrepreneurs. There's also a lot of businesses that don't make it because they shouldn't, because they're not thought through, they're not well funded, or they're not providing a service or product that's actually needed at scale. And whilst that's tragic for the individuals, it also has to be okay for a society. And there is a limit to what central government, local government can do in terms of support. Support is vital at the same time. So hearing him say that, actually, no, there's some businesses that won't get help, some businesses that shouldn't, because that allows us to target the help and the focus on the others. It was, for me, that was one of the home truths that I took away. It was like, well, yeah, that's a commercial reality. You're not entitled to own a successful business. There's no entitlement. That's on you. If you're brave enough to go and do it, you run that gauntlet. The rewards are there, and it's really tough. I know it, you know it, but also hearing that, no, there is a limit to what government will do, I think is a useful reminder in times like this, because you've got to get out there and, like my dad, you've got to go and pitch that market stall or not. You've got to pay that ground rent or not. What are you going to do? You're involved in it too. So that was the straight talking thing I really liked. And again, I don't fly any particular political flag, but that I did really like. And I thought that his willingness to take notes and to take things away, and we had a good mix of thought out questions, but also questions from the floor. And what other opportunity do you have to meet someone like that? They're few and far between. So no, well done. And when's the next one?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was 3 months of work trying to put it all together and everything. But I think it was just a tremendous opportunity to have that level of engagement. And as I said, he came on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, episode 11. Have a listen back. You can hear us talking about that event as well as other stuff that's going on in the UK as well. But we need this engagement, and we're very similar. We don't fly any particular political colours, but we must have this engagement with these people, because at the end of the day, it's how we can stand forward, and they also need the engagement as well. They actually want the engagement to a certain extent to understand what it's like in various areas. It's not as if we're all troublemakers out there causing problems, but it's actually a two-way street, and I think that's the beauty to it. You touched on startup rate. Last year there was 8,062 limited companies formed in Northamptonshire, according to Companies House. There were 6,886 failures. So we're actually up 1,176 in the county. But as I've been corrected a couple of times when I said that stat to a few people, some of these are obviously business centres that are mailing addresses and registered offices for people that are further afield that necessarily don't want their business. But it shows that the stats are there, and it is.
There's a lot of activity. There is a lot of activity. We're seeing it come back. If I focus on the commercial side of Wilson Browne, for example, we are seeing a lot more activity now than we were even 6-8 months ago. In terms of selling businesses, buying businesses, moving premises, whether that's taking a lease or buying a unit or, a large distribution centre. We've just been instructed on a significant distribution centre acquisition. We also have a lot of restructuring going on. People are getting ready for the next step because they're making certain anticipations about changes in the market, which wasn't happening last year. They were putting things on hold. So that's important. And there's a lot of hope coming back in terms of property, actually. Already there's movement we always see change in the residential market before we see change in the commercial market. So, you buy a house, you lease a house, whatever. That happens, and that's certainly taking a noticeable upswing. We're not quite back at, the levels that should be there before the rates went crazy, but we're almost there just since January, which is really, really positive. And the same is hoped for the commercial side in terms of business, which is great because we've got a really good property team that's ready to be, all the help you need.
Do you think there's more confidence around at the moment? Do you think more people have got to sort of the end of the bounce back loans and are beginning to actually see more light at the end of the tunnel?
So those loans coming to an end, feeding back into what Kevin was saying at your brilliant event, businesses come to an end when they don't have the ability to stay. What happens when a business comes to an end is there's another opportunity. There's assets, there's premises, there's maybe a business needs to be sold or acquired or merged into or merged with another, and they don't just end, they sort of get reborn. They don't all just crumble and fail and empty buildings. So those opportunities are coming up now because of the end of those loans. The opportunity that now the loan repayment is gone, well, what can I use that cash flow with? How can I invest that forward? Oh, actually, I'm used to paying that out. Can I do this? So there is that strength of feeling. There's also, well, I'm used to the inflation now and it's come down and I know what I'm paying. I've already done my changes, so I've got my profit margin back and I've got one eye on the interest rates. Will I go now and get ahead of it? Because maybe they're not going to go up. Some people think maybe they're not going to go down. Maybe they're going to stay in the middle. We're a lot less worried than we were a year ago, right? So that confidence is coming through and, everyone makes their own decision, but we're certainly seeing a lot more activity on the commercial side. We're seeing still, sadly, a number of redundancies that we're helping companies with on the employment side. We're seeing people willing to enter into litigation rather than I'll put it off, because there's a longer time period as to how long you have to bring a claim. And now people have the confidence to say, just have a look at this. What can I do about this dispute? And we can explain, early settlements and dispute resolutions, and it's not all a 10-year court battle. But the actual inquiries are up there as well. So across the commercial, in the last, even since Christmas, there's a noticeable increase. But over the last 6-8 months, confidence is definitely coming back in terms of activity. Born from the end of some businesses and born from the end of the bounce back loans. Some of the C bills are coming to an end in the not too distant. The next 12-18 months should see the end of the C bills being repaid as well, really, the ones that were taken over the medium term. And with the interest rate guesstimates, gambles, whatever you want to call it, there's definitely activity. And also there's pent up activity. People wanted to do things last year, but were a bit twitchy. Well, those reasons for doing them, if they're still here, they're still there, they're probably bigger. So now it's time, the new year gives people a kick. Let's get on and sort it. Get it done before the end of March, typical year end for many businesses. Let's get going in April, typical start for many businesses. So it is that time of year where I think, spring is in the air, really. And so we're keen to support that as much as we can, but also it's great to see just from a wider sort of socio-economic macro basis, really.
Brilliant. You mentioned spring's in the air. It certainly is on the way as well. I think, the doom and gloom of winter's disappearing rapidly and we're beginning to move towards a bit more of a brighter start and brighter mornings. Let's just focus on Wilson Browne for this year. You've got a couple of things coming up this year that you're going to be doing. You mentioned you're off to France shortly?
Yes. So I'm hoping if you're, cursed enough to follow me on social media, that you'll have seen posts about us going to Cannes. Really anxious to explain that this is not a load of lawyers on a jolly. We're, going cattle class on EasyJet in the nice cheap venue. And, what is it? Why are we going? It's called MIPIM, which is the world's largest networking, learning, meeting, conferencing event for those involved in property. So that's the whole supply chain. From the green service industry to the builders, the developers, the investors, the financiers, the surveyors, the agents, the lawyers, the accountants, everybody involved in a certain level of activity will be there. And going back a bit, if I go back to 2003, when I joined, what's a large regional law firm do? It makes sense for us to be at that event. Not to come back with business, because we're not that naive, but to go there and make connections that will help our existing developer clients, because we act for national builders, our existing pension fund investors, because we act for national fund investors, our housing associations that we act for. We're recognised in the Legal 500, which is the who's who of law, for our litigation. So I'm going for our housing. We've got recognised lawyers in there for the property. So all the property lawyers, property partners are going, and I'm going, and it's Wayne Jenkins, our business development marketing director, just to make connections. I'm taking my LinkedIn Live badge over there, so we'll be live streaming some interviews to try and give a flavour of what it's like. And I'm completely open. This is, I say we're going as cheap as we can, but it's still an investment. It's an investment of time. It's an investment of energy, because it's been months in the planning. We've stacked the diary out for 7 of us, because you can't go just 2 of you, because it looks rubbish. So we're going en masse. There's my French. And we're going to be meeting and greeting and talking and learning and hearing some amazing speakers, but also going around the exhibitions, going around the stand. There's a Manchester stand, there's a London stand, and seeing what can we talk about from the Northamptonshire basis, and not even just about ourselves. Rachel Mallows has given me a stack of Northamptonshire surprise brochures to take, and I'll be firing those at anyone who will take them. And just being an advocate again, and trying to be who we are, interested in where we're from, and talk about what we do, what our clients do, what our contacts do, and why people should look at Northamptonshire and come and invest and be here. I'm expecting it to be exhausting, to be honest. As much as my kids tease me that I'm just going to go sit on the beach for a week, I'm really not. But it's we'll try. We'll see. I hope it works in terms of getting people to know about what we can do here in Northamptonshire and Leicester, and we'll spread the word. It is the global stage. We were fortunate enough to be shortlisted last year for 2 European awards. We were successful in one of those. That's an amazing thing. At Northamptonshire, never mind Wilson Browne. Look at Northamptonshire. We're here. Don't just drive past. So trying to live and breathe that vision, that cause, and not be inwardly focused, and not just talking about law, but talking about where we're from and who we are, which I think successful businesses do that so well. And we're trying to be that, really.
Yeah. Well, Kevin, listen, it's been absolutely fantastic to be able to talk to you and hear a little bit about you, a little bit about Wilson Browne with from the chair point of view. We've touched on obviously some of the ever changing business landscape as well around the county. Is there a final message you've got, literally, just to summarise today's conversation?
As always, Simon, always enjoy talking to you. I think that you and NNBN do so much good for the business community and the skills agenda that you should be commended, because you don't do this for financial return. And I think that's the message. If you can make space as a business, whatever space that you can afford, for something wider, and that can be that you said earlier about that 1 hour a year. It doesn't have to be on this board or that board, or do this networking event, or do this podcast or whatever. But if you can make some space to give something back, because you're here for 10 minutes, and why not make it nicer and kinder? And probably, my dad always used to say, if you cast your bread out on the water, it might come back as jam sandwiches. Stop selling start being kind, and I think it should, with the following wind, work out if you've got the right people around you.
Fantastic. Well, thanks once again for joining us. Really appreciate your time today. And of course, next couple of weeks, we've got some various interviews with members of the team coming up as well. So looking forward to sharing those around about some of the different departments and different work that goes on within Wilson Browne Solicitors. But for now, Kevin, thanks ever so much, and we'll catch up soon.
Cheers, Simon. Thank you.